Hello, you're listening to the Saluki Gamescast. This is episode 139 for Wednesday, April 1st, 2026. It's April Fool's Day. Have you been pranked yet? Has anybody caught you, Christina Ivey?
No, not yet.
Mario Sanders, has anyone caught you yet?
Nope.
Well, this is not really Justin. That's today's April Fool's prank. I'm Justin Young. All three of us are here. We're back after several weeks off because we had spring break, and then the two of you were doing shows, not a show, not a combined show. Very clearly, let's state, two separate shows. So how'd that go?
It went well. I basically slept from like Saturday after the after party until like Monday, where I had to get up for the talk back. I mean, there were breaks. I ate. I used the bathroom.
You didn't fully hibernate?
Yeah, not fully hibernate, but I slept so much. So it's like, just trying to remind my body that I still have the whole semester to do.
Yeah, it was definitely a very busy week. I think for both of us, we talked about it the last time on this show, just the topic of our shows, doing it 6 times. You figure 3 like actual shows and then 3 full days of rehearsal. It was just, it was a lot. I think my mom and stepdad came in for the Saturday show and they hung out on Sunday. Otherwise, I probably would have done the same thing of just chilling and doing nothing, which I mostly did on Monday. But
I went to like brunch with some friends on Sunday, and then I went back home and went right back to bed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I went to see Thursday night's production. I enjoyed both of the shows quite a bit. It's always interesting when something's like deeply personal and emotional and everything to be like, I enjoyed watching you work through your grief on stage. Like, it feels like the wrong word, but like I enjoyed them as the artistic shows that they are. And both of you did very good with your work on those.
Thank you.
Somebody was asking me about it, and I said, look, it is always rough to get up on stage. It is rougher to get up on stage when there's no one else there really to help you for a significant part of it. And even rougher when like your subject is something deeply personal to you. And so, for that, like, I'm just very much impressed.
Thank you.
By both.
Thank you.
But we've been off for 3 weeks. Anything else like exciting, interesting that's been going on?
Really?
Yeah.
I think spring break was in that time, which I didn't really do anything, but it was nice to.
I had to write the dialogue sections for the show, and then I had to. It feels like this semester's been. I have to play catch up on everything. I had to get Mario back some feedback. I had to get one of my students that's working on their dissertation feedback. So spring break was basically just me working in my PJs. Yeah, the whole time.
Well, at least a more convenient way to work, right?
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. Plus, I got to take naps with my cat. Like, I that's what I do. I'd do a little work. I'd watch, like, 30 minutes of a show, and I'd take a nap. And then wake up, do it all over again.
That's my problem. If I ever go and try to sit on my bed and work, like if I have my iPad, I'm reading something or something like that, I'll go sit on my bed, and then instantly my 2 cats come and, like, pin me down. And then anybody who has a cat knows you just feel like a bad person at some point when they're resting, like, so peacefully, and, like, if you move at all, they're just going to be upset for the rest of the day. Yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh, go ahead.
No, go
ahead. Have y'all ever seen Big Mouth?
A little.
So, they have, like, physical manifestations of, like, emotions and feelings and things like that. I always thought that the one that was, like, really, really dead on was Depression Kitty because there's a moment where, the physical manifestation of depression is this big cat that just lays on you and it's like, you don't want to get up today. And I was like, that's exactly what it is like. This is what depression's like, but it's also like what having a cat is like.
Yeah, I mean, I think every cat is depression cat.
Yeah,
to some
really
degree.
are.
I mean, they can be wonderful if you're like overworking yourself,
Yep.
as reminders of no, you need to rest now.
Yep.
But they can also be hindrances from getting work done.
Exactly. You just want to take a nap. You know what? You're right.
Yeah. So certainly some neat stuff going on. Well, I guess why don't we just jump right into what we've been playing? Christina, what have you been playing lately?
So right after the show, I was like, okay, cool. I can do a little bit of stuff. I did the trial of Baldur's Gate 3 because Paycheck did not have $50 game this week or this month. I did not really like it. At least the trial part. I'm willing to go further in the game, but
What did you not like?
The mechanics of it, I guess, like the weird highlighting of everything around you.
Dice rolling and stuff like that.
The dice rolling was okay, but it frustrated me, and I was like, okay, this is why I don't play a lot of D&D. But it's D&D, not DBD.
DVD.
DVD.
Not DVD either.
Exactly.
You weren't hitting like next chapter over and over again.
But it felt like and maybe it was just because I don't play a lot of games like that. The only one I've played is Diablo, and somebody like walked me through how to play Diablo.
Right.
But I was like, I would try this again, but I was like, maybe it's just my post-show brain not being able to click with it or whatever.
I think those games are also pretty different.
That's fair.
Especially like the combat.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But I did download one that I really liked and that I'm still playing through. I think it's like from 2023 maybe. It's called Season, Letter to the Future.
Oh, yeah. I have not played that. I've got it when it came out, but have not played it yet.
It's really beautiful, and I thought that it would be like just more of like an easy story to kind of walk through as opposed to like game. But basically you play as this young woman who like leaves their small village, and as you do it, you're sort of like documenting it. From right now, it seems like the end of the world, right? We're basically, or like at least the end of the world, like as the people that live it kind of understand it. And you get to keep artifacts. So like you take a picture and you put it in your notebook. The really cool scene at the beginning is apparently it used to be a thing within this village to have a like protection amulet, and the protection amulet is someone else's memories based on the 5 senses. So like something they saw, something they could hear, so on and so forth. And they put it in this pot, or put representations of that in this pot. Once they do, the person loses that memory, but it goes into the little amulet so that they can, that's what protects them. And so it's just a really, I stopped playing it for a little while because I was like, okay, this does feel easy. I also don't want to think about like forgetting my memories at the end of the world right after doing this show. So, but I'm excited to pick it back up and to start playing it now that I'm not as much in that funk, I guess. But yeah, it's a really pretty game too.
Yeah, I haven't played that. I have played Baldur's Gate 3, and I can see how that would be a turnoff for a lot of people. And a lot of people, I think, who have picked that up because, that game really sort of captured the zeitgeist in the moment and became the it game that lots of people who normally don't play those sorts of games were picking it up and playing. And I think the fact that it forefronts a lot of the mechanics, like the dice rolls, right?
Yeah.
That's something that's always been in that style of game, but usually they hide it. And I think it overwhelmed a lot of people when they picked it up and started playing it. And I can completely understand that.
Yeah.
In that case, I think in some ways it's cool that they forefront that, but in some ways you kind of go, there's a reason these systems have been hidden for years.
Yeah,
in these sorts of games.
It can also just like a sort of culture shock of just like you almost need to wade through that, and then once you start to get used to it, and I think, and there's a reason why that game was so successful, but it can that initial. Like I said, wading through what all these mechanics are could be tough.
And I think that's why, like, the trial, they only, instead of giving you, like, to a certain point, you only have a certain amount of time. And, of course, I spent most of that time
making your character,
making
of course.
my character. Because you make your character and then you make the guide. And I was like, both of these, like, they have to complement each other and yet be different. And so I had a lot of fun doing that.
Right.
But I don't think I left myself a good
had
amount
5 minutes left to play.
I didn't have very much time left, no. And so, it was a lot of, I like the way you worded that, like, wading through a lot of it to, it just... I have no doubt that given more patience and more brain capacity, it could be a game I return to. But for now, no.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that kind of gets undervalued, and we've talked about it on the podcast before, is that sometimes the games that really connect with a wide audience are the ones that figure out how to minimize a lot of that waiting.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, Lego Party is a really good example of that, of a game that took the Mario Party formula and said Mario Party bizarrely has become too complicated, too much mechanics. And what if we strip a lot of that out of the way and get back to this core functionality of a party game? And it seems like it's been wildly successful as far as sales, but certainly critical reviews for it.
I think about the same thing with like Balatro. Balatro, you really just kind of jump in, whereas so many of these other roguelikes, it's just like, and then it's this, and it's also this, and it's also that. And it's like, oh my God.
I'm going to talk about one of those, Mario.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case.
I've watched that one, but it was just a lot.
Yeah. And I think as I've gotten older, I have less patience for that. Like, as I've gotten older, it's like, I just want to get in and play the game.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, please do not give me a 2-hour tutorial on how to play this game.
Yep.
Like, you've made the game too complicated at that point.
At least for me. Like, I totally get why people were into it. But it just,
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, if you've got the time to get through, to again, wade through all of that, then, I'm sure the final product is probably pretty awesome, but,
Yeah, I mean, and we're not saying Baldur's Gate 3 is a bad game. It was,
of course.
It was on my top 10 of the year,
I think it was our game of the year, I think.
Did we? Yeah,
I think it was our game of the year.
that makes sense, yeah.
I can never remember. Once we get past it, I can never remember.
It was either it was that or Tears of the Kingdom, so it was in the top 2.
Right.
I'd say that for confidently.
But like, I feel like every time, like if we say something like this, I feel like people could misinterpret it. Or you're bashing the game, and it's like, no, we're just saying like maybe that inhibits its audience in some way.
I mean, that's why I like having these conversations with y'all, is just because y'all play different types of games than I do usually. And sometimes what is that like?
You don't play Dead by Daylight.
Listen. I play more types of games, but usually those are like the cozy games. But so sometimes it's like...
Wait, are you saying Dead by Daylight is a cozy game?
No, it's like Dead by Daylight.
It is for Christina.
Yeah, honestly.
It's so cozy, like watching people get hacked to death.
Yeah, there's no hacking. I just get... Oh, no, I guess there is some hacking. Never mind. Well... I don't know.
Anyways.
It just... I feel like I learn about different types of games that I normally wouldn't even... look at. So
were you playing Baldur's Gate by yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the only time I ever played it, I got it, and I think it was one of those things. I started it, and probably similarly, but I was also just like, I don't have the time to delve into something this deep. But I've always heard, I feel like that's one of those games where if you're playing with somebody else, it is going to
one of the frustrating things to me is when I was first like messing around with it, I kept just hitting things because I, again, trying to learn the buttons. And I ended up making myself like do the pass out or do the thing where you need to be revived. And of course, there's no one there to revive me because I'm just playing by myself in this little room. And so I was like, well, I'm going to turn it off.
I mean, that's a real danger for games. I mean, that's something if you listen to some of the GDC Game Developer Conference talks, sometimes they'll talk about things like that. Like, how do we keep somebody from turning off our game? Like, like when we were testing this game, we found that most players turned it off within the first hour. So, like, how do we extend that so that they get into the fuller experience?
Yeah, for this, it was making the character creation so good that I kept it on for more than an hour, but then the actual gameplay itself was quick.
I feel like that's actually a problem in a lot of those role-playing games now. Like, the character creation is so good that people spend several hours building a character, and then in some of those, the more hardcore ones, like if you spec your character the wrong way, then you go and you play a couple hours and you're like, oh, I need to restart this because I know how I should spec this character better. And then you have to go through that process again.
Yep.
And you end up spending like 5 or 6 hours before you actually even play much of the game.
Yep.
I mean, that's maybe a slight exaggeration, but not too much.
If
The
you're
point stands for sure.
yeah, and if you really like, I don't know. I guess like for some of the stuff, I was just like, well, I'm not quite sure what that means because like I don't play a lot of this, and then I realized going back there, I was like, oh, gotcha. Yeah, I should have messed with this a little more for sure.
Yeah, I completely understand that.
Yeah.
All right, is that it? Okay, Mario.
Yeah, so I guess I've mostly played two things. So primarily over spring break, the game that I played was Pokemon Pokopia.
Yeah.
And so
Alicia's not here. So.
Yeah. I was originally not intending to get it because I'm usually not into those kinds of games, the sort of life sim crafting types of games. And I also didn't want to spend $70 on it. But then I saw that I had one of those like $50 Visa gift cards that those just like live in my wallet after I get them. And so I used that. And so it really was like a $20 game. And I'm really glad that I did because I enjoyed it a ton. I think I even said in our group chat, those kinds of games usually do not hook me. I think Stardew Valley is the last one that really did. And I think the reason Stardew Valley did is because there's like a very clear goal that you are meant to achieve in terms of completing the community center. And I think this game also having like very clear goals. They don't tell you necessarily like what's going to happen, of course, but like it's clear that these small goals are building up to some sort of larger thing that's happening. And that kept me going on it of just like, oh, I got to do this thing. Oh, and then I got to do this thing and I got to check my buildings over here. And yeah, I had a ton of fun with it. I think the way that it sort of like, I don't know what the right word is, like drip feeds you like certain things, like it doesn't all happen at once. Sometimes that's a little unfortunate, so it works on a real-time clock. So if a thing says your building will be finished tomorrow, like, all right, well,
it's almost like a mobile game.
Yeah. And so there were times where it would say that, and I was like, well, I guess I'm done playing for today. I think obviously as you get further into the game, you can start to speed that process up a little bit, but then also there's just more things to do. And so, yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed it quite a bit. It's very cute. The getting to talk to the Pokemon and like all of the Pokemon's their little personalities are very cute. Yeah.
Erin, another student in our department, was talking about that she doesn't. I think she owns a Switch to play silly games, and she said she picked it up, and she's like, was just talking about how great it was, and so it's one of those. It's like, even if someone's not a big quote unquote gamer, it's one of those games that has that kind of appeal to it.
Yeah, I mean this to me is you do not have to be a Pokemon fan to enjoy this. If you're a fan of like the Animal Crossing style games, you're gonna like this. And so like as the sort of stereotypical cozy game, I think it will satisfy that for people who like that kind of game. I know the other person who I was talking about, who I don't think has it because I know she doesn't have a Switch 2 yet, but is Shelby.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we've talked about, you should try out Stardew, and she's adamant against it because she doesn't want to go into the mines and have to fight anything. She doesn't want to have, if she has to fight a thing in a game, she's not going to play it.
But she loves Animal Crossing.
She loves Animal Crossing, and so, I had texted Scott, and I was like, oh, I think this is the game that, will get her back to playing something that isn't either Animal Crossing or Hello Kitty Island Adventure. She has a third game in the repertoire now.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you raise a really good point, because you and I had talked about this off air, that one of the things that always kind of inhibits us with a lot of those cozy games is that there's just not a whole lot to do. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, like I've played several of the Animal Crossing games, and they're very good for what they are, but like you hit a wall at some point where you're like, there's nothing else for me to do here.
Yeah.
Like I've decorated my island as much as I want, and there's not much game to this.
Yeah. I got to like blow up my entire island and just like start brand new. And I don't have that kind of intrinsic motivation in games.
Right.
Like you got to give me some sort of extrinsic goal in order to reach or achieve. And that is usually what serves as my driving force.
And because they have like little ones, like finding all of the little critters or whatever to go in your museum or whatever.
Yeah. I'll catch all the fish and the fossils and stuff. Yeah. But like, Stardew Valley did that exceptionally well. Mm-hmm. Like Stardew Valley is Animal Crossing, but with actual gameplay. Mm-hmm. Like, there's maybe not as much as some people would want. Like there's not necessarily like a full adventure, but like there's enough stuff in that game to keep you occupied. Mm-hmm. And the thing that got me excited talking to you about this, Mario, was you saying like, oh, no, like this has that sort of stuff. Yeah. Not necessarily exactly the same stuff, but like, there's a reason to keep playing this beyond, decorating your Pikachu's like house or whatever.
Yeah. And I think, and that's exactly what it was. When I saw it, I was like, oh, there's these little like fetch quest type of things, like bring me this item from one of the Pokemon. But then there's also I think they literally call it like major requests of like build the Pokemon Center, and then there is a larger building where you have to put all these things into it, and that is one of the like major story sorry, I'm trying to think. One of like the major story beats of like progressing through like doing the requests from this building. So
no, I mean that makes me actually interested in this game. It's kind of funny how my interest for this game went from like almost zero. It wasn't entirely zero because I kept looking at it going, that looks an awful lot like Viva Pinata and the way they're talking about it. But like then when people actually got code and started playing the game, and the early reviews were coming out and people were like, no, this game is like pretty great. And me suddenly going, am I going to buy a new Pokemon game this year? Because I wasn't anticipating that. Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, $70 would still be a little steep. Yeah. But you got a gift card lying around, I guess. Or, like...
Not all of us have wallets overflowing with $50 gift cards. I don't know where you're getting these from.
Do you know how many Taco Bell burritos?
like this to me feels like a game that if it were $40, I would say everybody should buy this game.
Yeah.
At $70, like I said, it is a harder recommendation to make. But I do think if you are a fan of Pokemon or you're a fan of those life sim games, it's a definite recommend. But even if you're not, like I said, I think it's doing enough that there's just enjoyment to get out of this game.
Yeah.
And I say that as like, I like the Pokemon games, but I haven't beaten one in, I don't know, the last new generation Pokemon game that I beat was like Generation 6, I think. So it's been a while. And like I said, those life sim games, on occasion, that like I'll get into one, but it's more rare. So, and this will
As in Viva Pinata.
this will almost certainly be on a game of the year list for me at some point. That's cool. Where it'll be, I don't know, but
do you think you'll keep playing it? I assume you finished the main story at this point.
I did. So I reached the credits, and I have not played it since, because I think my assumption is just, well, now it's going to be terraform this island how you want it to be, and I don't have as much interest in that. I may go back if there's like an event that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
But I have not played it since. But I'd say I still probably got maybe between 20 and 30 hours out of it. And that, if I had to guess, if I'm wrong in that 20 to 30 hours, it's probably more than less. Because I think the last time I looked, it was at 18. So and I know I had played it more since then. So if I had to guess, it's between 20 and 30. If not, it's more.
I mean, 20 to 30 hours feels like a good value proposition.
For sure.
I mean, you look at a game like Resident Evil 9, I mean, that's, I think coming in just around 20 hours or so, or a little below 20 hours, maybe 15 or so hours. So like a game getting 20 to 30 hours.
Absolutely.
Seems worth $70.
And there will be people who certainly get hundreds of hours out of this game, right?
Yeah. I mean, there are those Animal Crossing fanatics who are still playing it.
Yeah.
Or Hello Kitty, Wonder Island,
Adventure.
Oh, excuse me.
So that's what I primarily played over spring break. The other thing that I just played a couple of days ago is a game called Kidz 64. So it's really unfortunate because what
Christina is right to laugh at you.
I did laughing at you. It's just Kidz 64.
The description that it uses on Steam, I wish was what was real, but they say, okay, it's not actually that. But it describes itself as the unofficial kid-friendly adaptation of the Stephen King thriller.
Children of the Corn.
Yeah. It is not that.
Man, I would buy that right now. Sitting here right now, I would buy that on my phone.
Yeah, it is not that, unfortunately.
Oh, come on.
But it's a 3D platformer collectathon in the N64 sort of style. And I will say the aesthetics of it are so good. The music is fantastic. The gameplay, well, they nailed the N64. I'll put it that way. The platforming is unfortunately really janky.
This looks very third-party N64 platformer.
Yes, it does.
And so, like I said, and I mean, I think it's only like $7 or $8 or something like that. So, like, you're not having to drop a ton on it. So, like, for that reason, I wouldn't feel bad recommending it to anybody.
Sure.
I can't like enthusiastically recommend it in the sense of like, this game is fantastic, it's awesome. Like, it's not, but I also wouldn't not recommend it, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like, it's not like no, you definitely shouldn't play this, or you definitely should. It's like it's fine. You got $8 and you have some nostalgia for the N64, or it looks cool to you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should definitely check it out. But
like, this is the sort of game if you're the audience for it.
Very much so.
Right? Like, it's not it's not tricking you in some way,
Yeah.
right? Like if you just go and look at a few seconds of the video of this game being played, you will know pretty quickly whether this game is for you or not.
Yeah. I think my only real frustration with it, and I think that this would be a fair frustration because, like, you know, Christina, you really like Banjo-Kazooie, but I think the biggest knock you could say of Banjo-Kazooie is you essentially have to 100% that game in order to beat it. Like, even any percent is like 93% of that game. And this game feels kind of similar. Like, you are collecting just about everything in order to... There's one collectible you don't really have to get, but otherwise, you're collecting just about everything in order to beat this game. I think I beat it. I didn't 100% it, but I beat it. And got... And also I said, maybe that's wrong. I'll open myself up to that. But it was maybe like 5 hours. So it's not super long either. But that's, I think, how I would say, like, it's frustrating in the way that those N64 3D platformers are frustrating. Yeah. But it does also bring out, like, those feelings of nostalgia and the style. Like I said, the music is one of the real high points of the game. Cool. So
it's weird to me, and like you have different nostalgia for the N64 than I do. I mean, I like the N64, but like when I think of the N64, I think of Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, and like, you know, I think oftentimes when people talk about the N64 and they talk about the platformers and they talk about the sort of collectathons, I'm like, no, that was the worst part of the N64. Like, that's terrible. Like, we learned and moved on past that, right? Like, games, 3D platformers don't do that anymore for the most part. So when I see one of these nostalgic games go back and do that, I wonder if that is scratching a particular nostalgic itch for people, or if even people who are very nostalgic for this sort of game are still looking at it going, well, why did you carry over the, like, one part everyone hates?
I will say, and why I say I think I might be wrong about that is it looks like there's an entire, like, post-game level. So, like, you beat the game, and then there's another level after the game. And that one you may only get if you, like, 100% it. So you have to collect these they're cubes in order to get experience, and that raises your level. And to essentially reach, like, the final area, you have to be level 4, I want to say. And that door opens up at level 5. And I feel like I collected just about everything that I saw in order to get to level 4, and you got to collect, like, I think another 200 things in order to get to 5. So, like, I might be very right. Like, there might be a whole section of the game that I missed where a ton of those cubes were. But by the time I had reached that point, I was like, I feel like I've gotten my time out of this game. And if I had to guess, it's probably that bonus level is like a super level. Think like the Celeste B-sides or the Celeste C-sides.
The Mario Odyssey Moon mission.
Yeah, where it's like we've taken... This is the platforming cranked up to 11, so to say, in terms of difficulty. So, like, if you want it, it's here for you, but we're not going to force you to play this game, which that, I will say, is good game design. Yeah. So I think it's a cool game. I think people should at least look it up. And if it looks cool to you, spend the $7 or $8 on it.
I think it is 7.
Yeah.
When I looked.
But I'm glad to have played it because it's been on my sort of radar for a while now.
Yeah. No. It's interesting to see people keep going to that well because there's going to be a game that nails that.
Yeah.
And it's going to become a sensation. And, like, I feel like we've already on this podcast talked about like 3 or 4 different games this year trying for that. And they're all varying levels of success. But it feels like we haven't had the one that really recaptures that. Particularly, I think Banjo-Kazooie is the high people are going for, right?
And that like widespread success, right? Like
Yeah,
I think they have like some niche success, but that real widespread success is.
But even that like company had trouble recreating it with the second one.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Or even Ukulele more recently, right? Like that game isn't what people wanted.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think the closest anybody's gotten to that is probably a Hat in Time. Like I am lower on that game than I think the average opinion. I think that game is cool, but like people consider it to be one of the better 3D platformers out there.
I think it is, but it's still not what people are looking for, right? Like, and I'm not even, and that's the reason I asked about the collectathon stuff, because I'm not even 100% sure what if I know what people are looking for, right?
I think bringing up the music is important, because like that was one of the big things with Banjo-Kazooie is like the sound effects and music and everything were just were perfect for that game and really for that kind of time, really. And so I put a note to like go look this up just because I like to. I'd be interested to hear it. Yeah.
And I'd say this game is probably somewhere in terms of like its humor, somewhere between like Banjo-Kazooie and Conquer. Doesn't go like fully into Conquer, but it's like this is meant to be for like we're doing some like silly teenage boy humor here.
No poop monsters.
No poop monsters.
Well, no.
You do have to maybe deal with some poop, but that is
we're not going full poop monster.
All right, I'm back in. I mean, it's called Corn Kidz, and I want to say the poop monster threw kernels of corn at you.
I believe it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your goal in the game though is to get nachos, which is also pretty sick though.
Yeah.
They're not nachos deposited in poop,
No.
are they? Okay. Well, is it that the nachos will eventually lead to the poop?
Maybe that's the corn. Corn like tortilla nachos.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
Anyways, Corn Kid 64, folks.
I still think a Children of the Corn game for the N64 would totally rule. Like, somebody go make that game.
Yeah, kid-friendly one. Yep.
Stephen King sells rights to a lot of his stories for $1 for people to adapt, like for film school students and stuff to do. And so, like, I feel like...
Unless you're Stanley Kubrick.
The ghost of Stanley Kubrick is not going to make any more adaptations of Stephen King. But like, it would be interesting. Like, could somebody go and pay him $1 to get the rights to Children of the Corn and make a video game?
Any of them, right? Like, do a little indie game of any of his stuff would be interesting.
I know Dead by Daylight's been trying to get Pennywise
makes sense.
since the beginning. Yeah. So.
But that's tied up, like Warner Brothers has the license to that for right now.
Yep.
So that might be the problem there.
Yep. Yeah, there would definitely be, I mean, any of those stories, Children of the Corn or Pet Sematary or
Maximum Overdrive.
Oh, yes, that's the one I want to see.
Hey, that'd be a amazing.
That's the car one?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was
Okay, one of the car
all the
ones.
electronics, and it has the truck with the what is that on the front?
There's
Like
another
a
car.
goblin.
It's the Green Goblin
Yeah,
from
yeah.
He had two
Spider-Man.
car ones. One
Yeah.
was
Well,
about like a
Christine.
That's
Christine.
the other one I'm
Christine.
thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, look, if you write as much as him, there's going to be several car
Well,
stories.
if you
That's
do
not a
as
knock.
many-
That's not a knock.
If you do as many drugs in the beginning of your career, lots of things are going to talk to you.
But Maximum Overdrive is the one he wrote and directed while coked out of his mind.
Yes.
Okay.
And it feels it.
Yeah.
Like, it is an amazing experience to watch that
Yes.
film. I mean, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it's amazing.
I just really appreciate how campy all of his stuff is, and he was particularly campy when he was coked out of his mind. So
Yeah. I mean, there's really good Stephen King stuff. Like,
yeah.
Sure.
Sometimes people dismiss him because of the more eccentric stuff,
Yeah.
but like, then you go and like read some of his really good stuff, and you're like, oh no, wait, this is
There's a reason you're
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big fan. All right. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, cool. So I played a few things recently. I went back and played Recreation some more. So if you don't remember, Recreation is the sort of spiritual successor to Burnout Paradise. It was, I believe, our runner-up last year for most disappointing game, because that game launched as my sort of take on it was the game was about 70% of the way to where it was supposed to be when it launched. And so I played quite a bit of it leading up to the end of last year. And then I just kind of took a break because I was playing other things. They have continued to patch that game on a fairly regular basis, and fairly significant patches, like multi-gigabyte update patches to that game. And, you know, that was a game where it really felt like that game was just collapsing and they were going to abandon it, but they have continued to patch it. And the patches have been, I think, significantly interesting. So they've developed the world a bit more. They are working on a part of their roadmap is to build a more significant city on the island that you're racing around. One of the things that they recently did was they updated the sort of physics of the cars. So the drifting of the cars has been updated to kind of fit more with what a lot of players were asking for in the game. And so I think they deserve props for sticking with this game and trying to build. I'm not sure this game ever hits what Burnout Paradise fans, including myself, 100% want it. But it feels, month by month, it feels they're getting closer to something that at least is mostly capturing the spirit of that.
Yeah. Well, I know when we had talked about it a little bit, like that's just, it's nice to see because it demonstrates that this really is a passion project, right?
Yeah.
Like these, you know, even if it didn't, you know, reach the success that maybe they hoped for and or envisioned, they haven't just like, okay, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like that's something that, like, this is something that they want for themselves at some point, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, they started up a Patreon so that people can kind of support and finance the development of this, continuing development.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I assume that's been somewhat at least successful for them. I think the thing is, does this game ever get like a significant bump in audience after all this work is completed? Or are you really just talking to a very small niche audience continuously, right? Because Burnout Paradise is a game that has been widely enjoyed.
Yeah.
I don't know that this game ever finds that audience. And there's even last year when we were talking about, and I said, hey, this is pretty disappointing. I still thought, like, for the right audience, this game is really neat.
Sure.
And I just don't know that it'll ever find that broader audience. And that's kind of a shame. But, as we talk about often on here, there's just so many things trying to get people's attention and time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, games like this can disappear.
Yeah. If you don't have some big publisher behind you,
right,
it just makes it even harder.
Which their publisher abandoned them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways, that's neat. If you've been interested, I would recommend checking it out. That game has been on sale. I've seen it as cheap as $20 on the PS5, which I think is a fair price to pay for what's there. I think you can get $20 of enjoyment if you like the original Burnout Paradise. Let's see. I got interested in playing Shadowgate. So for those who don't know, Shadowgate was the
original one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Shadowgate is a role-playing adventure game that originally came out on Macintosh computers back in the 1980s, and then probably most famously got ported over to the NES. And that is the version that most people are really familiar with. They're familiar with that interface. They're familiar with the graphics because they redid and updated the graphics. It was originally a black and white game on the Mac. And so I was really interested, like, I kind of want to play Shadowgate because I really love that game on the NES. I beat it on the NES, just renting it. I think I rented it 2 or 3 times and beat that game. But anyways, so I was interested in playing it, and I could emulate it, but then I was looking on Steam, and I was like, wait, there's a remake, and actually, I own that remake. I must have gotten it in some bundle at some point, so I'm going to install and play that. So I installed the remake of Shadowgate, started playing it, and man, is that remake garbage.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So the remake, they went in and commissioned all new art, and I hate to badmouth an artist. I think there are people who are going to like the art style. For me, it is too busy, and it obscures what you're supposed to do in particular scenes, whereas the original Shadowgate art is very clear as you're walking through. It makes it not an easy game, but an easy game to identify, like, what can I interact with, and like what in this environment should I be interested in. And I think that's part of what made that kind of whole line of series. They did The Uninvited and Deja Vu. They're all kind of the same style. It's what made those very accessible games, particularly during the NES era. And this feels like, I don't know if I could give this game to somebody who had never played a Shadowgate game before. And they try to streamline the interface and make that easier, but it's a lot of, well, I'm going to click this object, and then there's going to be a wheel that pops up with different things that I can choose, look, grab, take. But like that actually makes it more confusing, it feels like. And so it feels like you took a very simple game to play, and instead of what most people probably wanted, what I wanted was maybe a slight streamlining of the interface and maybe a touch up of the graphics. They tried to rebuild it from the ground up, and they added in a bunch of stuff that there's like a whole prologue story that you're just like, who cares? Like at some point, like this is maybe alluded to lightly in the original game, but like in this, it feels like overdone fantasy tropes that just don't really enhance the game in any way. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe if you came to this entirely without any experience, you would have a better experience with it. Yeah. But even then, like it just doesn't feel like a very good game. And so, I would recommend emulating the NES version if you want to play Shadowgate. It's out there. It's fairly accessible. The last thing I played is Raccoin. So Raccoin is a raccoon themed coin pusher game. So the sort of arcade coin pusher games where you drop a coin and there is a top level and coins fall down to the bottom level, and then it pushes coins off the bottom level and you get those. It's usually played with tokens if you're in an arcade because, of course, it can't be actual money. That's gambling at some point. So it is that, given a roguelike sort of polish. So think very much trying to Balatro this, right? Like we've talked about that, I feel like over the last couple of years, everybody trying to
roguelike casino.
Yeah, let's do a Balatro version of this, right? And so it's trying to do that. I think one of the weirdest things about this game is like when you start it up, there's a CRT filter over everything. So everything has, like if you've ever run an emulator with a CRT filter where it's like trying to make everything look a little grainy with the like separation of the lines and everything, it has that on there by default. And it looks ugly.
Yeah.
And so like one of the first things I did was turn that off, and I'm like, like, I don't even get it. Like, the whole point of a CRT filter, right, is to emulate what it was like seeing a game in the 80s or 90s on a CRT television. This was never a game style in the 80s or 90s. Like, I don't remember any coin pusher games from that era. So I don't know what they're trying to accomplish with that. It just feels weird, especially to be on there by default, right? Yeah. And then once you get into the game, like, there's a tutorial mission that you play through. And so the Balatro-ness of it is, in between rounds, you have money that you spend in a shop, and you can buy special coins. You can also buy, like, there's 2 other, like, modifiers that you can buy, and then you can use in the next round as you're going through. And I think it's a little too complicated. Which maybe makes me sound like dumb because it's just a coin pusher game. But, like, I feel like for me, it just, there's too many things I'm juggling. Where, like, part of the beauty of Balatro is the simplicity of Balatro, right? Balatro is poker. Do you know how to play poker, right? Which I feel like not everyone does, but most people do. And even if you don't, it has the ranking of the hands and everything in there. So, like, most people at least have some conception for poker. And then the complexity of it is, okay, which jokers are you going to collect and use? And that's it. But, like, because there's such a diversity of jokers, that's the complexity of the game. Yep. Right? And what?
I was going to say, I know, just because I watched a friend play some of this yesterday, I think one of the things that is also a little bit of a hindrance is the thing that made Balatro so simple was it was like the math was fairly easy in the sense of, like, this jumps your score by 2 times. This jumps your score by 3 times. This does this. This does that. And I'm sitting there watching my friend as he's, like, doing the math in his head of, like, this adds 8% to your score. And it's like, that's, nobody's able to just, like, pick, he's a math teacher. Like, so, like, he can figure that out in his head. But, like, I'm just like, that doesn't mean anything to me to some extent, right? Like, that's, yes, could people figure that out in their head eventually? But, like, there's an additional layer, I feel like, of abstraction in terms of, like, how is this actually affecting my score as compared to, I don't know, 1.5 times or, you know, 2x or 3x that Balatro's feels pretty straightforward with.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, which, you know, when you get to those higher levels of Balatro, like, you are running into, like, okay, this is, you know, to the e to the 20th power, right? And so, like, at some point, the numbers don't make any sense anymore in that. But, like, I think the problem here is, well, okay, first off, as you said, I think the numbers are difficult for the average person, right? To make sense of, I'm going to add this coin, and this coin does, like you said, 0.2%, and you're like, okay, well, what is that actually doing for me? Okay, this is going to multiply that times 2. Okay, so then I'm trying to figure all that up while I'm playing. But then even just the mechanics of a coin pusher, to me, aren't a whole lot of fun. It's not as fun as, like, drawing cards and laying down hands in a card game. And I'll say that as somebody who has played these games in an arcade, I've never found them to be all that much fun.
Right.
I think the coin pushers that I've found to be the most fun have some other thing on top of them. You're trying to shoot your coin through a target or something. I'm not just like, and now I've dumped 20 coins. I mean, like, yeah, there's the
They're almost like pachinko boards on top.
There's the dopamine hit of all the coins just fell over. But like, that's pretty fast that ends.
And, you know, there are different different coin pusher machines in this. So, like, maybe they get into more of that. Maybe it gets a little wilder as you go it feels like the problem that we always run into with a game like this, and this sort of kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Baldur's Gate, that you take a very simple concept that people really enjoy, and then the way to innovate, right, is to build systems upon that. And that oftentimes in building those systems, you take away what made that game so endearing originally, which is the simplicity of it, that it's very easy to get it, pick up and play and understand how everything in the game works.
Yeah.
And I just feel like this is more work to play this game than I want it to be.
Yeah, and I think you see that with a lot, right? Like it's just like you have to add more and more and more, because it's like, well, Balatro already did this, and then Luck Be a Landlord did it before that, and then this thing did it before that, and it's just like, well, now we have, well, what if we add this thing on top of it as well, and then what if we add this thing on top of it as well, in terms of the mechanics, and it just becomes overly complicated. When, like, I think it's one of the reasons why I think something like, I didn't love Clover Pit, but I almost appreciate that Clover Pit, the way that they added to it was more narrative based, of like, here's this like overarching story or thing that's happening, as compared to here's a bunch of more mechanics that you now have to wrangle that also are interacting with each other.
Well, I mean, I think, like, to go back to one of our 10 best games of last year, Bollock's Pit, right? Like, the part where you are actually playing the ball bouncing game, right, and the innovation they do with different characters, all of that works perfectly.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty simple and it's pretty straightforward. And the, like, variance is the different characters, right? Like, that introduces new fun mechanics. But, like, the other part, the base building, is overly complicated and, like, drags down the fun.
Unnecessary. Yeah.
And I think that's the issue that a lot of these games run into. Like, I'd almost be interested in seeing a Bollock's Pit 2 where they jettison that part of the game and focus more on that main part of the game. And with this, like, I don't know if a virtual coin pushing game would ever be a whole lot of fun to me. Yeah. But, like, you know, like, even you're controlling where the coins are coming out, which slot they're coming out, and you can kind of, like, figure out some mechanics, like shooting one from each side at the same time so that they collide and then they land in the middle. Right. So there's ways that, you know, there's some mechanical things that I think are innovative and interesting in this, but I don't know, it just never, so far, it has never reached that level where I'm like, oh, like Balatro, where I was constantly going, I want to play one more hand, right? I want to keep playing, and, you know, then 2 hours has passed suddenly, and I haven't had that moment with Raccoin yet.
Yeah, I think the one that's probably been closest, it hasn't reached, obviously, the level of success that Balatro did, but in terms of, like, it's very simple. I haven't played it, but I've watched a friend play a ton of it, is Peglin, which is the, like, Peggle pachinko goblin game,
right?
Where it really, all you're doing is just getting new balls that you're shooting down, and the balls do different things.
Which was in Peggle to begin with.
Yeah. And so, like, I there really is something to just, like, you know, just, you got to keep it simple to some extent. Like, just adding each layer you add, like, I mean, just creates more distance, I think, for some people. You're, like, narrowing your audience more and more.
Yeah, and I think that's really hard.
Oh,
right?
Of course.
And I think that's the thing that people undervalue about Balatro, like, you know, at the time, and certainly looking back at it now, people took the wrong lessons from that game. And, like, the lesson from that game is, like, the simplicity of it is what makes that game amazing.
Or at the very least, the complexity of it, it hides that complexity, or, like, it funnels it in such a way. Because, like, you figure there are a bunch of different card types. Yes, you have the Joker, but you also have the tarot cards, and you have the planet cards, and you have the spectral cards. And so, like, it does have all of that, but it feels like all of it still funnels back into one thing.
Yeah. No, I just meant, I think that game works so exceptionally well, and it connected with audiences so exceptionally well because that game never feels overwhelming.
Sure.
To the audience. It never feels obtuse to the audience. Like, the things that you don't know about that game feel more like mysteries you're uncovering than like confusion of how any of this works.
That's a good point.
And like, I think I say that as praise. Like, I think that's like amazing design. And I think it's really hard to make a game like that. And I think this is sort of evidence. This game's getting pretty good reviews. It's like, sort of catching on and everything. And so I think there are audiences that are going to connect with it more than I did.
Yeah.
It's just not working for me super well so
I think
far.
my friend really enjoyed. I mean, he obviously he played the demo a while back, and I had messaged him yesterday that it had finally come out. So he played it and streamed a little bit, and I think he really enjoyed it. But I'll be interested to see how long it stays in his rotation.
That's when I had watched it, is when the demo was out, and it's like it felt like a bunch of those Balatro wannabe games came out around the same time.
All right, that's what I've been playing. So let's move on over into the news. We've been off for a few weeks, so we're not going to recap everything that's happened in that time, but there's been some pretty big stories that we'll go ahead and talk about here. Let's see, the biggest maybe news in the last few weeks is that PlayStation announced that they're raising their prices again on hardware. PS5 systems are going up by $100. The PlayStation 5 will now be $650. That is the disc drive version. The digital version will be $600, and the PlayStation 5 Pro will be $900. Which is like, look, they list it as $899, but like, you're not fooling anyone here. This is $900. Yeah, so I mean, my instant reaction to this was I bought a PlayStation 5 digital, not exactly at launch, but a few months after launch, and I paid $400 for it. So this is a 50% price increase over what I paid for mine. I think before the show we were talking, Christina, that you paid $450 for a disc drive
with Spider-Man.
Spider-Man 2 included in that. So you paid $450, it's now $650. So again, a $200 price increase. Like, game hardware has traditionally gone down. Like, it was a sort of rite of passage that a lot of people had learned. You had your early adopters who went out and bought a system at launch, near launch, that first year or so. And then after that first year, you would start to see price drops. And it might be small at first, a $20 price drop here, $30. But like eventually, I think we were talking about the PlayStation 2. Like, that was a system that launched at what, $250, $300 maybe? Yeah. And eventually by the end of its lifespan, you could walk into a store and buy one for $100.
And that's the thing, right? Like, we're 6 years later at this point.
Yeah, we're not a year later.
Yeah.
6 years later.
Like, you could almost understand it if it was the next year and they were like, oh, something, like, it would still be sucky. But, like, 6 years later is wild.
Yeah, so, like, there are people who have been waiting this console generation out for the prices to drop, and they just haven't. They've done the opposite. They've gone up. Like, you almost were better served buying a PlayStation 5 at launch than having waited, which is like, just like, I don't blame anyone for that because it's completely counterintuitive and it's not the way the industry has ever worked before. Yeah. I mean, we should say there are contributing factors to this. This isn't just Sony's greed or anything. So, certainly tariffs contribute to this. Certainly the rise and shortage in component prices has contributed to this, particularly with RAM and hard drives. So, like, this isn't Sony just, sticking it to PlayStation fans. But I think the bigger question is, okay, well, what does this mean for the health of the video game industry? Because a lot of that audience that comes into a game generation a few years late or even near the end of it, like, is difficult. Mario, I think you said, do they just look at this and go, well, I'll just wait for the PlayStation 6?
Yeah, at this point, if you figure 2 years, 3 years at the latest, I can't imagine it would go much longer than that. Yeah, just what is that going to cost? Is that going to be that much more than $650? I don't know.
Is it going to be more than $900?
Yeah,
for a PlayStation 5 Pro?
Mm-hmm.
And if it is anyone going to buy it? Like, is anybody interested in a game console that is pushing $1,000?
Again, at that point, just get a PC.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe PlayStation isn't going to be as readily available on PC anymore, but you're still going to get some pretty great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, when people talk about the health of the game industry, you know, I don't worry so much about the health of the game industry because there's so many great games coming out, right? And even if they're not necessarily coming out from Sony or Microsoft, they're out there. You know, a lot of these, like Corn Kid 64 is coming out, and it may not be your thing, but it's somebody's.
Mm-hmm.
And these games are coming out there, and that game probably will end up on Switch at some point if it's not already. So there's so much to play. Like, it doesn't feel like there's any lacking in that area. But my concern is there going to be anyone there to play them?
Yeah. The creativity of like game developers and game designers, that's never going to go away. But if people
and there's
eventually
more of it now, more than there's ever been.
But if people get priced out of playing them, like, then that is something you can do about.
Well, you know, people, I understand people can be sort of dismissive towards a concern like this, but this happens all the time to hobbies. People get priced out of hobbies, right? Like, there are things that people are really into, and then it just becomes too expensive to continue doing it. Like, I think about, you know, we've seen a growth in vinyl sales, and like, it's neat. Like, right, people who like really want a tangible feel to their music, they can collect vinyl now, and you know, in a way that nobody's buying CDs anymore. But then at some point, I go into a Target and look at the vinyl section, and they're selling like, you know, like Taylor Swift's new album for like $60. And I'm like, who is this for at this point?
I was at Barnes and Noble with my mom this weekend, and it's just like a normal paperback was $20. Like, that to me is like, I know that things get more expensive, but like, that's a book that I feel like I could remember when I was a kid. Those things were $12 to get, like, and not even like the mass market paperbacks, but like $20 just seems so expensive for, I mean, anything to some extent, but like, but for like a paperback book, there was a shock there.
Yeah. I think I was telling you, my friend was telling me that, you know, her daughter is looking at buying a PlayStation 5 and wants to like save up money and buy a PlayStation 5 because, you know, she's really into video games. And but she's 13 years old, and I'm thinking, okay, well, like when I was 13 years old, like video games were expensive, and in some ways more expensive than they are now because of Steam and digital sales and everything. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But like now, like a 13-year-old is going to get priced out of this hardware. Like, you have to be a professional with with a salary in order to afford these game systems. And it's getting to the point where I think Mario, you and I are in the same position that we own all three major consoles right now.
Yeah.
And is that feasible with the next console generation? If they're selling at $900 each, it's not at all for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm out.
Well, I was just thinking about, if you were a kid and you got even a $20 allowance like per month, which like now would maybe not be all that much, but like it's still 2 years of saving $20 a month in order to pay for a $650 thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I do see this as a threat to traditional video games of people just getting priced out. And like theoretically, some of this maybe changes in a few years as politics shift and everything. And we can talk about the AI bubble, and when that bursts, does that affect the price of RAM and all this? But a couple years in the meantime can do some serious damage to the game industry. And the game industry is already in a position of problems where young people are spending more time on an iPad than they are on a Xbox controller. So like maybe we have a generation that just never gets these game consoles, right?
Yeah, and I mean, there's something to be said, right, about the average gamer today as people who probably grew up in like the 80s and 90s. Well, are the, the kids are playing Fortnite and all that kind of stuff and Roblox. So like there is that, but what will that nostalgia look like in 15 years? And how does that affect the way that games are made and produced and all of that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think potentially this has reverberations that people aren't quite considering.
And maybe you can't look 15 years into the future, but there's got to be some amount of consideration of what demographics are going to look like.
Right.
And we should note that this is, Xbox has obviously raised their console price twice, I believe, already. People assume that the Nintendo Switch, the original Switch has gone up in price, but people assume the Switch 2 will see a price increase this year. Nobody knows for sure, but there's some assumption that it almost inevitably will happen unless something dramatic happens to change that. All right, well, moving on. Hades 2 has been announced for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox. That is releasing on April 14th. If you did not realize, Hades 2 only came out on Switch 2 and PC originally. So that's cool that everybody else will be able to play that. Obviously, one of the biggest games of last year. Along with that, Minecraft Dungeons 2 has been announced for coming out later this year sometime. Did either of you play the first Minecraft Dungeons any?
No.
There's actually an arcade version of this game.
I have seen the arcade version.
Which, as far as I can tell, is just the regular version of that game to be played in arcades.
It's like Gauntlet, isn't it?
Yeah, sort of. I played a little bit of it on PC because it was on Game Pass. It's just that first one was not very good. It was kind of a fun idea that it just didn't engage me a whole lot.
I may have gotten it on like a PS Plus or something like that. I feel like it was one of the monthly games at one point.
Yeah, it just didn't feel. It didn't feel like there was enough there. So I'm kind of cautiously optimistic that with a sequel, they might expand on it.
Sure.
Because it's really going for that, Gauntlet, Diablo sort of market. So I feel like there's a possibility there if they build a little more into that game. Let's see. Nintendo. We have a lot of rumors about Nintendo. So Nate the Hate, who is a pretty popular Nintendo leaker, has come out with some news that they state is definitely happening internally with Nintendo. Take this with a grain of salt. But I think at least some of this would make an awful lot of sense. Nate the Hate claims that a new classic style Star Fox game is coming sometime this year. So I assume by classic style they mean like the Super Nintendo and N64 games, not like Dinosaur Planet.
Could you imagine? That would be awesome. I feel like the GameCube is classic at this point.
I mean, yes, and I think some people very much consider that game a classic. So,
I just could imagine how mad people on the internet would be, though, if that is what classic style Star Fox meant.
I mean, it would be pretty fantastic.
Yeah,
that day
it
of
would
watching social media meltdown would be pretty amazing.
Star Fox Adventures too.
But anyways, so again, this is one of those things where you go, okay, that's possible. And then when you put it together to the reveal they made about the Super Mario Galaxy movie coming out, where they put out a poster last week right before the film releases this weekend, revealing that Star Fox appears, Fox McCloud, appears in this new Super Mario Brothers movie. So all of a sudden that synergy of we're going to include Fox in this film and we're going to have a game starring Fox coming out this year sometime makes an awful lot of sense.
Yeah, I think as soon as you saw that, the first thought had to be, there's got to be a new Star Fox game coming out sooner rather than later.
Which I don't think was a thought that a lot of people had prior.
Sure.
I mean, if you told me they're going to make a new Star Fox game, I was like, probably someday, but like I wouldn't count on it, but like
not the first franchise that I would put my money on.
Right. Now all of a sudden it seems much more a pressing issue, right? Because we've talked about this before. These game companies have realized, hey, if you have a movie out there, you want to have a game to go along with it. Because kids particularly go see these movies and then they want to play that. And right now, the only way they would do that was like, Super Smash Brothers for Fox.
I don't know. I'm sure some of them are on like the Switch Online, but still, I'm sure they'd rather them playing a new game.
I guess I meant something they could spend money on.
Yeah.
Right. The other one was a remake of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which I feel like this rumor pops up every few years.
Yeah.
I think the thing that gives this more credence is we've just had the 40th anniversary of Super Mario Brothers. This year is the 40th anniversary of Zelda. We're probably not getting one of the like new major 3D Zelda games, right? We're not getting the next Breath of the Wild in that sort of series. And so people have questioned, well, okay, what are we going to get in its place? I think we've talked about it. Like, are they going to try to do another remake like they did? Are we going to get a Zelda 2 remake or something? Or the original Zelda, are we going to get that in that sort of tilt shift style that they've been doing with like the Link's Awakening remake? And this seems like, this would be a biggie.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Like, this is maybe the biggest thing that Nintendo could announce, like maybe even bigger than some new games.
Sure.
That game is so beloved. When we talk about nostalgia on the N64, I feel like that game carries even more than maybe Mario 64 at this point.
I think Mario 64 is the only game you could really say put in that same ballpark.
Yeah. So yeah, like, I mean, if they do this, then all of a sudden, like, one of the big questions has been, the new generation of Pokemon game is not coming to 2027. So what is Nintendo's big fall release, right? We know that they have a few games still coming out this year, but like they haven't announced anything that feels like this is a system seller, right? Pocopia bizarrely became one of those system sellers. And I don't think the general public realized that before its release. Maybe Nintendo internally had, a great deal of optimism, but I don't even think Nintendo necessarily knew that game was going to be as much of a hardware pusher as it has been. But for the fall, like, what is that game going to be, right? And it's probably not a new Animal Crossing in the same year that you put out Pocopia. It's probably not a new Smash Brothers unless you're just doing like a Ultimate Deluxe sort of release.
Sure. Switch 2 version.
Yeah. So, like, what is the big game? And it seems like with Donkey Kong Bonanza coming out last year, it seemed unlikely to be a 3D Mario, which I think a lot of people were kind of putting their money on. As part of these rumors, he says the new 3D Mario is not coming this year. It won't come till next year. Mm-hmm. So then what is Nintendo's big release they might have something entirely new come out this year, but like they probably have something in a franchise that they're hoping to really sell systems. And Ocarina of Time, like I feel like that would sell an awful lot of Switch 2s. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense. Also, that would get them that out before the film comes out next year. That live action film is coming in 2027. So again, you want that on the shelf so that people can go into a store after seeing that movie and buy the game. Right. One other part of these rumors, this one I think feels the least likely to happen of all of these, and that is that they are doing a remake of Super Metroid, and that this would be with 2D sprites, so sort of maybe an HD version, essentially, trying to retain the original look. This would be by the same developers who did Metroid Dread. So I could see that. I could see that they move them on to this as their next game. Like this is entirely plausible.
Yeah.
I just don't think that moves the needle nearly as much as the Ocarina of Time remake does.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know who's, to your point, Mario, earlier, I don't know who's clamoring for this other than people who were alive at the time this game came out.
Yeah. I think Metroid lost so much of its like cachet as a franchise between whatever the previous game was and Dread. There's just like so much time with
Metroid Prime 3.
Maybe, yeah. Other M, which was a Wii game. So, it's just like not a ton in that period of time. I mean, I guess you had the 3DS Metroid, the Metroid 2 remake on the 3DS. And it's like there's been some, but this is not, I mean, I don't know if it was ever like a flagship franchise for Nintendo, but
not
it
sales
feels
wise.
Like
it never has been.
It's moved down instead of moving up.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously Metroid Prime 4 did not do what people wanted it to do, either critically or sales-wise.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, I think for me, none of these, I mean, classic style Star Fox, I think, is cool, but I'd just rather see them making new stuff.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's not a 10 out of 10, I'd rather see something new than just continually doing all these remakes. But
for sure,
and it's just where all the money is at this point.
Well, I think the Star Fox, the implication is it is new.
Yeah,
it's
that
a new,
I do get, but
is a new entry in that franchise. But
sorry.
No, I get what you're saying about the other two. Yeah. Like,
I guess my thing is just like Ocarina of Time is still really freaking good as it is right now.
Yes.
It's on the Nintendo Online. I know it's on the expansion pass one, so you got to pay more. So like I want to be understanding of that, but like just play the original one.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, though I wonder if you take a kid today and try to get them to play that game, right? Like that game, I think holds up still really well, but I think it doesn't feel like a modern game.
Sure. But yeah, Maybe that's me being an old person.
Well, now you know what it feels like. It'll happen to you too. Yeah. So, I mean, take all that. Those are rumors. Take it all with a grain of salt. I think there's probably something Zelda coming this year. I don't know what that is. I think given that reveal of Star Fox in the Mario movie, I think it makes a whole lot of sense they do something with Star Fox.
Yeah.
I think the 3D Mario is probably not coming this year. That seems like too quick of a turnaround. So, and I think next year, like all of that seems logical.
And I think you mentioned it. This person has a pretty good track record.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're one of those things like they're right more often than they are wrong.
Yeah, I think at this point they're staking their reputation on this just not being like some, something they're making up or something they heard in the wind. They have some sources providing this.
Yeah. And you're right with it being a 40th anniversary, because it's a 40th anniversary for Zelda. It's also a 40th anniversary for Metroid this year as well. So, doing something would make some amount of sense.
Yeah.
And remakes are probably just the easiest thing to do because, Breath of the Wild is 3 years old, 2 years old, I think. Not Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom.
Right.
That's 2024, I want to say. And, no, that was 2023.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And then, Echoes of Wisdom was 2024. So like both of those would be a pretty quick turnaround for something brand new. So a remake just makes the most sense. Whether it be Ocarina of Time or they put out the long rumored Switch versions of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, of those remakes.
Well, and
whatever they were called.
And there's lots of people in the game industry say, hey, like those games have been done.
Mm-hmm.
Switch ports of those games have been done for quite a while now. They're setting somewhere on a shelf inside Nintendo. And so then all of a sudden that makes sense. You could release those as well.
Yeah.
Right? Like that would give you two different Zelda things to celebrate the year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's something where you could do your direct and you're like, and these are going to be out today, right? The same way they did with the Metroid Prime remaster, to give something that moment, and then you can look forward to Ocarina of Time in November.
Right, and those are simply the HD remasters that came out on the Wii U, whereas this Ocarina would be a ground-up rebuilding of the game. I think you raise good points about it's more remakes. This is maybe less exciting than entirely new games, but at least these are games that I think are interesting to go back to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. In other news, Nintendo has announced that they're going to lower prices in May on digital games, starting with Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. Okay, so there was some confusion about this. Are they lowering prices on digital games or are they raising prices on physical games? So Nintendo did clarify. They said, no, we are lowering the prices on digital versions of the game. So if you buy Yoshi and the Mysterious Book at retail, like go into Walmart and buy a copy, it'll be $70. But if you buy it digitally from them through the e-store, it'll be $60. Now, there's some amount of, this is splitting hairs because Nintendo could have been always intending to sell this game at $60 and said, we will tell the rubes that we are giving them a discount and we will just sell it for $10 more, physically. But when you start to think about this, okay, in a couple ways this makes sense. One, there are tariffs on these games. They're being manufactured overseas, brought into the U.S., so there's tariffs on them. Plus just the cost of global shipping as oil prices have skyrocketed. Mm-hmm. So it makes a lot of sense to say, okay, well, we have to figure out a way to balance this out, right? And do we want to raise prices on all of our games, or do we want to sell the digital versions at a discount, right? And I
They
think
make more money on the $60 version of this game than the $70 version of this game.
For sure.
yes, so they are getting a bigger cut of this, right? So they are essentially only paying the the transaction fee with the credit card companies when they're selling you a digital version.
Server fees for the
Right.
the
The infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? All of that. Yeah. For running their store. But, compare that to when they sell a copy to Walmart, the manufacturing, the printing, all of that, right? The profit margin is considerably less. So yeah, I mean, there's also the issue that all of these companies, whether it's Nintendo or Sony or Microsoft or Valve with Steam, all want to get you buying more and more of your games digitally, because people who bought a PlayStation 4 and built up a library of digital games were much more likely to stick with the PlayStation 5 instead of switching over to the Xbox. Phil Spencer bluntly said that. Like, losing that console generation doomed the Xbox brand to some extent, because people had built up a digital library, and when they moved on, they wanted to keep that digital library.
Yep.
It's the reason a lot of us buy games on Steam.
Yep.
Because we're fairly certain that library will still be working on computers 10 years from now, whereas it's been more hit and miss when it came to consoles up to this point. So, like, Nintendo wants to lock you in. If they can give you a discount, which they're actually making more money off of, the thing that's held them back until this point from doing this, because there's been a sort of outcry from people for a long time. Hey, buy a game digitally, it should be cheaper. Obviously, Mario, as you pointed out, the infrastructure costs, the credit card processing costs, it's not like it's completely free for them. But what's really held them back is retailers like Walmart and Target and Amazon have basically said, hey, wait a second, you can't sell that cheaper digitally, because then nobody's going to buy it from us. But I don't know if you've been in a Walmart or Target lately. Their video game sections are fairly anemic.
Sparse, yeah.
Yeah, so other than the hardware, buying the physical system and the accessories, I think they just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've hit that tipping point where all these game companies can say, take it or leave it. We don't really need you that much anymore. Not for software sales.
Yeah.
Like it's great if you still sell our hardware, but Nintendo, this console generation at launch was selling consoles directly. Sony did that with the PlayStation 5. I mean, certainly Valve has done that with the Steam Deck, and they've all proven that they can sell perfectly fine, without being in these major retailers anymore. And, we all know GameStop is living on a prayer at this point. They're not long for this world. And, so then it seems like they're even less useful. Like, retail is even less useful at that point when they're gone. So, I mean, I guess embrace that, enjoy the discount. I don't know. Do the two of you mostly buy games digitally or physically at this point?
Mostly digitally, I would say.
It feels like a coin flip, to be honest. Like, I would have bought Pocopia physical, but the places I was looking for, it didn't have it, so
It sold out.
that's what was like. I only called the GameStop and they didn't have it. And then when I realized I had the gift card, I was like, well, it honestly might just be easier to use this gift card to buy a Nintendo gift card. And so then that's what I did. And then I put the Nintendo gift card into the eShop. So I bought that digitally. But then I think the other most recent game I bought was Silent Hill F. and I bought that physical for the PlayStation 5. So
Okay.
it might be, sort of console dependent, to be honest with you. And honestly, just like cost. Right? Like if I can, because PlayStation games do eventually get cheaper, they were selling that for like $30. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just buy the physical copy of this because that's going to be cheaper than buying it for $60 on Steam.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what I've been picking up, like either free or cheap games. And so most of the ones that I've been playing recently have been digital.
Yeah. I find that I almost buy everything digitally at this point. I'm looking at my game collection. If I have something from the last 2 console generations, it's almost always like a gift that somebody else has given me. And mostly that's just for convenience sake, right? Like I like being able to set down my PlayStation and just play whatever I want. It's in my TV stand behind glass doors, and so I almost never have to touch it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I have a digital one anyway, but my Xbox has a disc drive on it. And, like outside of maybe some old Xbox games that are backwards compatible, like that I can slip into the disc drive, like I'm just not using the disc drive that much. But, like if you're bargain hunting, you can still find some games cheaper physically than digitally. So, I mean, I think that's still a motivating factor for a lot of people. I think with Nintendo particularly, like these games rarely ever go on sale, like physically or digitally. And so, you're probably not going to find Yoshi and the Mysterious Book cheaper physically anytime soon.
Yeah. No, and I mean, like this probably would get me to buy things digitally more regularly if, I don't care if Nintendo makes more money. If I get to save $10, like that's worth it to me.
Right. We should note that obviously the long-term threat of this is that physical goes away and the only way to buy your games is digital, and then Nintendo says fuck you and raises the price $10 or more likely $15, $20. And so now you're paying $80 for all your games.
I think that's the thing is like I like to hold on to this like vestige of physical media and like what's the word I'm looking for? Like not saving it, but like having access to it because digital media, I think there's always like some level of precarity to it, but that might be more a pipe dream than anything.
Yeah, I think for me moving around, like I have a gigantic DVD collection.
Yeah.
Because I was at the right age when DVD came out. I was a big movie buff. And so I have a huge DVD collection. And now it's mostly in boxes.
Yeah.
Because I almost never touch those DVDs. Yeah. I stream things or I buy them digitally. And just the convenience, particularly when I think about if I move again anytime, and I have moved a lot over the last 20 years since I started building up that collection. I just think, man, like the only thing I really care about physical is books. And I still rather have books physical than digital.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably one of those things where the more realistic thing, especially now that like games don't have manuals anymore, it's literally just a box. Just get rid of the box and get one of those like big CD binders to put all the CDs in.
Yeah, I mean, I did that with my CDs years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Got rid of the cases, put them all in binders, and now I never touch those because I just stream all my music.
Yeah.
Let's see. The U.S. Patent Office has revoked Nintendo's patent for summoning characters to make them battle. So this was Nintendo's patent that they were using against other developers. Basically the Pokemon patent, as a lot of people pointed it out. And basically the U.S. Patent Office, something they don't normally do, they reevaluated this patent after it had been granted. They announced last fall they would reevaluate it, and now they have revoked it because basically everybody was saying, wait a second, like Nintendo didn't invent this mechanic, and this mechanic is in a lot of games. So like even if you think about something like Final Fantasy games, right? Like doing the literal summons.
Which predates Pokemon, right?
Yeah. So I think this is good.
Yeah.
This is good for the game industry. Nintendo can't abuse this.
You want like a ball capture mechanic. Okay, maybe, but the summoning mechanic feels that's just too widespread.
Yeah. Let's see. Switch 2 has added handheld boost mode for Switch 1 games. So if you didn't know, Switch 1 games had two different modes. They had a handheld mode and a docked mode. The docked mode would often, because of the extra power and the less battery drain, would often run at a higher resolution and at a better frame rate. Or maybe one or the other, or, sometimes both. And so for a long time, people have said, hey, wait, the Switch 2 is a lot more powerful. Why can't we just have them running in that docked mode on the handheld? And so this new feature, which you can turn on by going into your system settings, now allows Switch 1 games running on a Switch 2 handheld to play in that Switch 1 docked mode. So it allows games to, again, maybe run at a higher resolution, run at a better frame rate and everything. It does make for a hit on your battery life. And there are a few games that it won't work with because of unique characteristics of the game and everything. I know there was some where in the docked mode, the touchscreen didn't work, and so you couldn't run the game that way in handheld, and so there's some issues with that. But anyways, I don't know. Mario, you have a Switch 2. Have you turned this feature on?
I've not. I don't think I've played any Switch 1 games. The only one I've played is Pokopia, so I don't think I've had a reason to check it out, but when I saw this on the lineup, I was like, oh, that's right, I should do that.
Yeah, I flipped it on, and I think the thing I noticed, a couple of things that I played was, the improved frame rate. Yeah. Resolution, I mean, you notice that in sharpness, but I don't feel like I always notice resolution, particularly on a handheld as much. But like frame rate is more noticeable in a lot of those, particularly because a lot of those Switch 1 games did have issues with frame rate. Yep. So that's a cool feature. Good, we're talking some smack about Nintendo. That's good for Nintendo. Let's see. Filming has been halted on the Tomb Raider series after star Sophie Turner was hurt on set. Obviously we wish the best for Sophie Turner and healing and everything. This is, again, one of those things. Like, I think people feel like movie stars don't do any stunts, that it's all stunt people. And then you see these stories and you're like, oh, no, wait, like these people are actually doing some stuff. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes when you see somebody on wires, it is the actual actors doing that. Right. Obviously that's going to delay that show, but it shouldn't have significant long-term effects on it. But again, hopefully she has a quick recovery. Mm-hmm. Have y'all seen anything on this DLSS 5? This is from NVIDIA. So DLSS is their super sampling on their video cards. So this is what allows your video card to take an image and extrapolate it into a 4K image. So maybe it renders at 1080, but like it displays on your computer monitor at 4K. Mm-hmm. And so it is essentially using a variety of different technologies to sort of like fill in the gaps and like expand that image up and everything. And because it is taking 1080 image, for example, and making it look 4K, it means that it can potentially run at a higher frame rate than your video card naturally would be able to. So, you know, there's similar technologies are inside the consoles now, including even the Switch 2. So like, this is not something new or radical or anything, but just some technical background for anyone listening who doesn't know. So they announced the new version of DLSS, which is DLSS 5. If you have it currently on a video card, you're using 4, I think 4.5 is out now on video cards. But this new 5 would have AI technology in it because, of course, everything is AI now. And that this AI is going to make graphics better in games. So they showed this working on several games, which we should note that the developers of those games often were completely unaware that their games were going to be shown. I think the CEOs, the bigwigs, the executives at these companies had to sign off, but they didn't necessarily go to the teams and say, hey, we're doing this. So one of the examples was from Resident Evil 9 that just came out. And they took the main female protagonist of the game and they showed some footage of her. And basically it was trying to add in details to the faces of the characters. That was one of the big ways they were showing off this technology. And the reaction has been incredibly negative to this tech. So just as an example, Grace is the name of the character in Resident Evil 9. She is a character who is going back to where her mother died in the game.
Yeah.
And she's an FBI agent, I believe. And so the character has this very sort of subdued, sort of professional look to her. And with the DLSS 5 version, I think the best description of it I saw was that she had been yassified. Yeah. So they added, like in updating the details of the character's face, they added like makeup to her. So they added like makeup, like lipstick to her. They added mascara to her. And like, this is all being done by the AI. Like, this is not artists going in and like hand doing this. This is the natural instincts of the AI to do this. But there are other like side effects in some of the other demonstrations, like, you know, it sort of deforming people's faces of the models and everything. NVIDIA claimed that this was doing this at a geometry level, so that essentially when the video card was rendering the polygons for the scene, it was actually editing at that level. And people have since proven that no, it is taking the final image and just running it through an AI filter in the same way that like you run a photo in an Instagram filter. Which makes the Grace yassifying up make even more sense, right?
Sure.
So I think the best part of this story, which, I mean, people's reaction to Grace, like one of the things I love about video game players is video game players can be the most like, crude and sexist and kind of embarrassing people at times, but then they can also at times be like, what the fuck did you do to our Grace? Like, that is not what Grace is supposed to look like. And I love that dichotomy because I never know what I'm going to get out of game players. But I think the best part of this story was the reaction from NVIDIA's CEO, where when like presented with this backlash, he said, well, they're just wrong. Which is maybe the like PR disaster response from a CEO of the year. just brain dead response to it. Obviously, players are not wrong in how they feel about this.
Right.
If they're upset about it.
The memes are really great. That's what I'm looking at now. Because it's got, like, it'll show, like, DLSS 5 off DLC, right?
Yeah.
And the ones that are on shows, like, what looks like, what is it, attractive Squidward. Because it does another game, too. I can't tell what game this is, honestly. But it has a dude in a cowboy hat, and then the next picture is him, like, with a super chiseled face.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a cool idea to use AI to enhance graphics, but I think the biggest pushback against this has been people saying, well, this is not the creator's intent. Right. And I think one of the more interesting arguments I heard about this was when it came to preservation of games, because theoretically, right, like what version of the game are we preserving? And as you introduce new versions of DLSS, is this going to change, right? Will grace look different with each new version of the game to the point where, you know, do we even recognize who this character is anymore at some point?
Yeah. I guess I might push back on like this isn't the creator's intent when like modding communities are like so rampant. Like,
Sure.
okay, like you can play Skyrim with like Thomas the Tank Engine as like the dragon.
Right.
Like that's not the
Or
developer's intent.
Macho
Like,
Man.
yeah, like it's one of those things that like I definitely am on board with the you know, like if you just don't like how it looks, like that's fine. You don't have to make up some other reason
Right.
to get into that. Like, and like I you know, like there's something about like, you know, fan communities and doing all that and stuff like there's reasons for that beyond just, I don't know, the developer's intent feels like a little flimsy.
Well, I think the issue is in like this case, the developers had no clue this was happening.
Yep.
Sure.
In a lot of cases, right? So I think the issue is this a feature that would be able to be turned on and off? Or is it a feature that's going to be turned on by default by NVIDIA, or are the developers going to have any sort of like actual input and control over this? And so I think that's where you get that sort of people's concern over it, right?
Sure.
Because
I think that is fair.
because mods, I have a choice.
Yeah,
to
you
install,
are the person that's installing them.
right. So yeah, no, I think
that is fair. If this is on by default, that's more than reasonable, or like at least give me a very clear way how to turn this off.
yeah. So the other issue we should point out that the demos of this that they were running were using two 5090 video cards, which are like $2,000 plus a piece right now to buy. So they were using one 5090 card to render the game and then another one to apply this AI filter. So the point being, this is not something that's probably going to affect people anytime soon.
Yeah.
But when you start thinking about the next generation of video cards, right, like that could potentially be something more like baked in at that point. But at least for the immediate future, it's probably not a huge concern.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we're going to end on a little bit of sad news here, which we generally try to avoid, but I think this is worth talking about. So over the last month, there's been a lot of layoffs in the game industry. This kind of continuing a trend from last year. Read through a few of these, but some of these I think are worth talking about. Eidos Montreal has laid off 124. They've also canceled a game that they were apparently been working on for the past 6 years. Red Storm Entertainment. So this is also a Ubisoft studio. These are the people who did who made the original Rainbow Six games. So they have laid off 105 and essentially shuttered that studio, is my understanding. Crystal Dynamics has laid off another 20 developers. Of course, these are the Tomb Raider people. And then the biggies, Epic Games laid off 1,000 people. So Epic Games is, obviously most famous for Fortnite today, but also they run the Epic Games Store on PCs. 1,000 people is a huge amount of people for any company to lay off. They cited specifically that the latest season of Fortnite has not been as successful, and that they are seeing some drop off in people engaging with Fortnite. I feel like that we have talked about that on this podcast. Like that seemed inevitable at some point. And it doesn't seem like any of the bets that they've placed have really worked out. Like you'll remember, Epic Games are the ones who sued Apple and Google. And they have poured millions into lawsuits suing Apple and Google so that they did not have to give them a cut of sales through the app stores. And you kind of look at this and you go, where has that gotten you? And you're laying off 1,000 employees. They have also, tried to move into publishing. So they published Alan Wake 2. They've tried to publish some other games. That doesn't seem to have paid off super well for them. They have also, tried to expand Fortnite into a Roblox-like platform where people can kind of make their own experiences. That doesn't seem to have worked out super well. They signed a deal with Disney. So that they were making an online amusement park of some kind, that was specifically for Disney, wasn't part of Fortnite, was going to be its sort of own thing. Obviously, that still hasn't come out. You wonder, they're laying off 1,000 employees. Do they have enough employees? And I'm sure they have probably 10,000 plus employees at this point, but do they have enough employees to continue to manage Fortnite, their store, all these other things, and continue working on this project for Disney? Right. And I think it raises some serious questions about the future of Epic Games. Tim Sweeney, the CEO, did come out and say, this has nothing to do with AI. We are not replacing these people with AI. Obvious, and that we have to make this sort of statement because that's going to be people's knee-jerk reaction. But you do look at this and go, where does Fortnite bounce back from this, or is this a beginning of a downward trend? Right? Like all these games eventually lose some of their popularity. Dead by Daylight, I'm sure, has lost some of its popularity over the years, right? Like MMOs, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, they lose some of that popularity over time. People move on. They, find new games to occupy them. Is that what we're seeing with Fortnite? And if that's the case, then this will not slow. This will probably accelerate to some degree. Yeah. Especially if they don't have anything else to take its place, right? Which doesn't seem to be the case. I have another layoff here that's not directly video game related. This happened yesterday. Apparently at 6 a.m. in the morning, Oracle sent an email to 30,000 plus staff. And at 6 in the morning saying, this is your last day of work. So no heads up, no warning, just laid off 30,000 people, which is, I always tell students, if you're going to talk about numbers, you have to give people a way to conceive of that. So this is a baseball stadium.
You figure that it's 3 SIUs.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
30,000 people. And here's the thing about Oracle as a company. Oracle had record profits So they're not laying these people off because of the decline of the company. They're laying them off because they have bet heavily into enterprise AI solutions, providing sort of the technology, the hardware for people who want to use AI on an enterprise level and use their systems, which is what Oracle provides. And the cost of building that out, right, which is buying these, in a lot of cases, NVIDIA GPUs, buying up this RAM, these hard drives and everything, the cost of that is into the tens of billions of dollars. And in order to offset that, they're having to fire people.
As I say, like Larry Ellison's like what? The second richest person on the planet?
Yeah. Well, and again, to kind of tie this back tangentially to video games, this is the same Larry Ellison who is backing his son's purchase of Warner Brothers currently. And Warner Brothers, of course, has their game division, which is, NetherRealm Studios and Rocksteady, people behind Mortal Kombat and the Batman Arkham games. So, what does this mean? I included Oracle in this list mostly because lots of companies are making these big bets on AI, including Microsoft. When we see Microsoft shutting down studios and questioning why are they shutting down studios, part of it is that Microsoft's being told, hey, or Xbox is being told by Microsoft, hey, you need to cut costs because we are blowing a lot of money on AI right now. And even if you're profitable, we need to save money some places, right? Which it means if we can fire, a few dozen people here or there, that's money that can go into this AI infrastructure build out.
Yeah.
Which we should note, like any sort of computer build out will be outdated in a few years, and you will have to spend more billions to build out again. And all of this AI is being built out not because there's demand for it, but because people perceive that there might be demand in a few years. And this is also what is driving up the cost of RAM and hard drives. So if you want to upgrade your computer or, say, buy a PlayStation 5, this is all directly tied into those rising costs. It sucks. I'm not completely down on AI. I'm not completely, negative on it. But I do think these companies are leveraging their future on something that may not pan out. This feels very much the .com boom of the 90s and then the crash of the early 2000s. This feels like pets.com paying $1 million for a Super Bowl ad and then being gone 6 months later. Or, the cryptocurrency of a few years ago, they were buying Super Bowl ads and then, they were hiring Matt Damon to be in a cryptocurrency Super Bowl ad. And then, 6 months later, that website's gone.
Yeah.
And this very much feels like that. Oracle's probably not going to go out of business, but some of these smaller companies, right, might. Or, Microsoft may have to do significant, more cost cutting. So, yeah, not to end on too depressing of a note. Obviously, we wish well to the people who lost their jobs, particularly within the gaming industry, but all these people, including the people at Oracle. But, understand there are real economic reasons why a lot of these bad things are happening in the game industry. And some of these are self-inflicted wounds, and some of these are wounds from just the greater economy, both the U.S. and the world economy. And, like, hopefully the game industry, like, rides this out. I don't think it'll completely go away, but I do worry, like, as in most of these situations, who's hurting are the 20 people at Crystal Dynamics, the 100 people at Red Storm, right? Mm-hmm. It's the everyday people who get hurt in all this, right? It's not Larry Ellison. All right. Well, let's end on a happier note. We have a big question from longtime listener, a longtime question asker, Derek from Kentucky. This seems a little directed to you, Christina, in some ways. So why don't we let you read Derek's question?
Yeah, let me read Derek's question here. Hello to the Saluki Games crew from Istanbul, Turkey, which I have been to Istanbul. I love it. It's lovely. Huh?
Brag?
Well, no, it was a mission trip. This was when I was very Jesus-y.
Okay.
Were you proselytizing to the cats?
No, not to the cats.
Because Istanbul is famous for having cats.
Oh, and I was in heaven because I was just like, yeah.
So you were on a mission trip and in heaven.
Yeah.
So it worked.
Yeah, it did.
Sounds like I knew.
For me. I was excited to have the latest episode to listen to on the plane journey here. Good job as always. Even if Christina has been playing hooky a lot lately. Listen, I've been very busy.
So true.
Listen.
Out on another mission trip?
No, not today. Listen, it's true. Okay. So Derek's question is, do any of us have any clothing or apparel, such as bracelets, headbands, earrings, etc., that are video game related that we cherish? So I was like, one of the things I was looking up on the phone while y'all were talking, and basically making myself sad. When I was a senior in high school, I had a shirt from Hot Topic that was...
Of course it's from Hot Topic.
Of course, I was an emo, okay?
Well, I didn't mean...
Oh.
I just mean video game related stuff at that time would have been from Hot Topic.
Yeah. But I had a T-shirt that was Kingdom Hearts, but it was them and their Nightmare Before Christmas, like, get up in the Halloween town, right? Of course I did, yeah.
This is the most emo T-shirt.
This is the most Hot Topic T-shirt I can think of.
So I was looking it up because I was like, you know what? I have not really seen this shirt, like, anywhere. And so I looked it up, I found a picture of it, and I found a few places selling a vintage Kingdom Hearts shirt for, like, first of all, 2002 shirt, and I was like, yeah, that's about right. One was, like, on eBay for $120, and another one was on some other website for, like, $250. And I know with those things, it's, like, it's not what they're worth because it's more, like, what people will pay for it. But I'm like, if I had that shirt... Yeah, I would sell it for $100.
Dang. And you cherish.
Listen, I do cherish it. I do.
Cherish $100
I also
more.
cherish
Potentially $150.
Listen.
This shirt, no memories, don't care.
It was.
What have you done for me lately?
I wouldn't be able to wear it anymore. You know, what am I going to do? Make it into a quilt? Like a pillowcase? But no, it's very representative of who I was at that stage in my life. Where it comes from, what it was. So, but yeah, that was the only thing I could think of.
All right. Mario.
I don't know if I have any clothing, but some of the items that I've always held more dearly are different things that I've gotten from, like, I don't know, comic conventions and, like, the artist alley. So I know at one point I had these posters from... It was 3 posters, and each one was like a cartoony drawing of the Wind Waker Islands, like the major Wind Waker Islands. One that me and my friends still talk about, this one place at a convention was selling coasters. And so I think I still have it. It's a Link coaster. And we've always talked about trying to find that place again, or if they still sell the coasters. I think the most recent one that I got, though, was a keychain that I currently have on my keys that is of one of the Katamari
Oh, yeah.
rolling balls.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, clothes, not so much, but other little knickknacks, definitely.
I have a few video game T-shirts that have been gifts over the years, and so like anything that's a gift to me, I like value more than like the T-shirt I bought.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
Like,
fair.
you know, I hate to get rid of something like that because it at least holds some emotional value.
Right.
So I know I at least have one that has, it has like several different controllers. I think it's one of those that it says something similar to like classically trained or something.
Yeah.
It's not the one that you usually see online and everything, but so you know that was like a gift from somebody who was like, oh, like I know you like video games, I'll get this for you.
Yeah.
I have a keychain that's not currently on my keys, but it was a recent gift, and this is sort of video games related. It's Launchpad McQuack from DuckTales. And so I'm going to say because of the DuckTales video game, it counts as video game related. But Mario, you brought up art. And so I think the thing that I probably hold most valuable is not something I wear or anything, but it's a piece of art. I met one of the animators from Dragon's Lair, and I have a drawing of Dirk the Daring from Dragon's Lair by him. And so he worked on the original game back in the 80s, the full motion video Laserdisc game. And so it's not a piece of art from the game, but it's a piece of art he drew later.
That's really cool.
And so I think that's, for me personally, like really neat game related.
I do have a piece of art in my office that's like an artist rendering of like a character from Majora's Mask.
So you have the Skull Kid one, I think. In your office.
And then I also have a picture. I want to say one of my last outings in Lincoln, Nebraska, when I was getting my PhD, someone had drawn Majora's Mask like on the concrete, and it was really, really cool. So I took a picture. So those two things are hanging next to each other. And they have followed me around pretty much since then. So that's probably better than the T-shirt I would sell.
A couple like mugs and stuff like that. So it's like, it's not stuff that, clothing I there's not much connection to, but those sorts of items that I see every day or use on occasion, those are the ones that, for me, hold a little bit more dearly.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Derek, for the question.
Yeah, it's a good
and
question.
the call out.
Yeah.
Definitely the call out. Jeez.
Yeah. Like, hey, she doesn't care what we say, so the listeners have to hold her accountable.
Develop some guilt or something.
I have plenty.
Some of that religious shame has to like come out.
Catholic guilt, but some Gamescast guilt or something.
You weren't raised Catholic.
No, but my grandma is was Irish Catholic, and that stuff is generational.
Transferable.
I was like, why do I feel guilty about grandma? Yeah.
Well, anyways, so we do appreciate the question. If you want to send us a suggestion for a big question, we are always happy to receive those. You can do that by emailing us at justin.young@siu.edu. That's JUSTINYOUNG at siu.edu. So send those emails, and we welcome those. And if you need to give Christina a hard time,
it's true.
They will allow it.
Yeah, all the better.
We'll read all of them on the air.
If we got in 5 or 6 emails, all like dissing Christina, we would read each and every one of them.
You know
or
what?
maybe we just make her read them.
I was gonna say,
better.
I kind of deserve it, just a little bit, just a little bit. Okay.
But no, we do appreciate those. That does it for this week's episode. Thank you, Mario and Christina. Thank you, Christina, as always, for being a good sport. Thank you to everyone listening. You can always check out more of our stuff by going to salukigames.com. And there are back episodes as well as all sorts of other content that's been produced over the year. by us and also like various other people associated with this podcast. So check that out. But otherwise, that does it for this week. We hope that we will be on a more regular recording rotation than we have been in the past few weeks. Just a really rough time of the semester. So for Alicia, this was the rough time of the semester. This was that time of the semester for us this semester. But anyways, we hope to be back next week and talk to you more about games. Until then, take care of yourself, play something fun, and we'll be back soon.